Hi, and welcome to another beautiful, beautiful episode of this special tech right here on Podcastmalawi. Of course, courtesy of Angle Dimensions. And I know today the face that is on the front scene is not the one that you're used to. I am holding the fort today. My name is Miss Mbumba. I'll be your host. So you know what we do, what we talk about, and you know what goes down on this particular episode. We talk about all things to do with tech, because technology is the way forward, and it's the only way we can survive as a human race. All right. So oftentimes there's guests in the studio, and today I also have my own particular set of guests. Very exciting, very interesting stuff. So if I were you, I'd make sure that I don't go anywhere. I think to also top off before I allow them to introduce themselves, you will note that it's 3 women in the studio today. So when it's women, you know, Majezage, they're just special. They just have to be special. All right. So like I already introduced myself, my name is Miss Mbumba, and I'll let my guests introduce themselves, starting right here next to me.
All right. Thank you for that, Mbumba. My name is Angela Shumba. I work as a business analyst for Angle Dimension.
Okay, lovely. And my lady over there?
Thanks, Mbumba. My name is Agatha White, and I work as a quality assurance engineer at Angle Dimension.
Okay, that's really interesting. I think for somebody like myself, I'd be like, oh no, please tell me exactly what a quality assurance engineer does, and tell me what a business analyst does. I think we're going to tap a lot into that later on. So before we, pretty much jumpstart the conversation, if I may ask, how long have you ladies been working with Angle Dimensions?
1 year and some months now.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been there for less than a year, so it's about 7 or 8 months now.
Ah, lovely. So how could you say your experience has been so far working in tech, in the tech industry, and working especially with Angle Dimensions? How has that been for you so far?
Starting with me, okay. Working in tech is very interesting.
Okay.
It's a very fast-paced space,
Okay.
if I could say that. Yeah, it's very fast-paced. I think there's always something new, so things are very interesting, actually, because there's new things that you're working on. So it's been a good experience, a good learning experience a lot as well. So, yeah, learning, I feel like also it's just really nice to also see other people using things that you've been working on, because it gives you a different perspective. So it's like, okay, yeah, I've been working on this thing for some time, but seeing someone else who's seeing it for the first time be like, oh, okay, this is real.
Would you say that we're like moving the right direction as a people?
Yes, I think we are.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Angela? How's your experience been so far?
All right. For me, it's the same. It has been interesting, as well as it has been like I'm exploring every day.
Okay.
Yeah. So for me, it's not about working on the tech stuff. I also do a lot with people stuff.
Okay.
So I'm always in teams in coordinating what those people are doing in the teams. So for me, it's both the tech part and also how the business is doing at the same time. So for me, it's just a great learning experience so far, because I'm able to do the technical part and also handle how people do the activities on their day-to-day activity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I think for some of us who maybe would be interested in finding out exactly like what does a business analyst do, and what does the quality what really goes out, like where you're in your office space, what exactly do you do? We want to know. I really want to tap into that.
All right. Go first?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
All right. Okay. For me, I also had the same question when I was starting, because I was at Mist, just graduated in 2023. But I didn't really know what this role is about. And also maybe you can agree with me that it's not popular in Malawi being a business analyst.
Yes.
Yeah. So basically what we do, as I've already said, that I work on projects. So we have several projects that people have been doing maybe manual processes in the organizations.
Okay.
So now they want to go digital. So we try to help them on how best they can do that. So for me, especially a normal day of a business analyst, I start with talking with people. What exactly do you need? And how can we add tech to what you're doing at the moment?
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Oh, I have more questions, but what about you? What is your everyday today job like? What do you do in your space?
Yeah. So as a quality assurance engineer, you deal mainly, so there's a life cycle, right? That software goes into. So it starts with the requirements gathering, which is Angela's, and then it goes into the planning, and then it goes into the designing, then developing, then testing. So I come in at testing, right?
Yeah.
So this is right before anything is deployed. So after everything's been developed, designed, I come in and I'm like, okay, is it doing what you said it's going to do? So I come in, I identify bugs. So by bugs, I mean like any defects. So if something is not working, there are errors, something's happening, I have to point that out, send it back to the developers and say, something's not working.
Okay.
So, yeah. So quality is mainly to do with, it also interlinks with BA a bit.
Okay.
So we have a lot of conversations. So after the requirements are gathered by the BA, I, as the quality assurance engineer, as the tester, have to create like some scenarios. It's like, okay, if someone was to take whatever we're doing and not know how to do anything, how would I show them how to do it, right? So as much as you're testing, you also have sessions with the people who are going to use the product.
Okay.
So you're there and you facilitate those events.
Okay.
So you have to also be like, okay, how do I instruct someone in the best way possible? From there, they sign off, and then we move on to the next steps. So next steps would usually be deployment if everything goes well. If not, we have to go back. Bugs have to be fixed. The software has to be tested again. Okay. And we repeat the process until everything's good, ready to go, and then we release to the market.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think I have tapped a lot on the fact that it has to start from somewhere, then it has to go somewhere else. Yeah. So she comes in as the business analyst and you come in for the quality, making sure that this product or this service really needs to be top notch. We can't give it out if it's not as good as we say it is. So I've seen that there's a lot of intersectionality between the two of you. So you have to work together a lot.
Yes.
Is there like something, since you started your job and like working together, has there been an instance where you can highlight to say, okay, we did something and this was like really, really cool. I think it's like at the top of the ladder for the both of you. Like when you sit down and you talk, it's like, okay, we did this and I think this was it was a good run. Is there something that you can highlight?
I think there have been many times actually.
Okay.
When it's like, okay, I think there's been a lot of conversations where Angela and I are discussing, and I'll be like, okay, what did they want in the beginning, right? Before I start doing whatever I need to do, because, of course, Angela also writes some scenarios that I think she can get into, that I'm supposed to read off of and then also create my own thing from there, right? So there have been times when we're like, okay, there's this problem that we're dealing with. What did they want in the beginning, and has anything changed since then?
Okay.
And then from there, we make a decision together. So I think there's also a lot of support between the two of us.
Okay.
Because, someone can... It's just a human experience to also change your mind.
Yeah.
Right? But when it comes to projects, it's not that easy. you can't just change your mind. So we have to verify, what did you say in the beginning?
That's true.
Yeah. So there've been some very interesting times, I think, between the two of us.
Have there been times where you're crashing and you're like, no, that's not what I want? Has there been those instances? I mean, it's possible. We're human beings. So
Yeah.
it's very possible.
Yeah. It's more
to clash on ideas.
Yeah. It's there have been those moments where it's like, okay, this is the direction that things are going, but I mean, we want to uphold to some industry standards, right? So maybe industry standards wise, it's not the same thing. So sometimes there is like friction, but it's not like very tense. Yeah. So Angela, you can take over.
Angela, has there been like a highlight for you?
Yeah, I think you've almost talked, you've explained more on that because most of the times, yes, it's them coming to me because I'm the, when you're at war, there's this front line.
You are the front line.
Yes, front line of defense. So if anything, it's always, what did you talk about with the client?
Okay.
What did they want? So even when she's testing or these developers are working on something, they're supposed to come to me if there's anything. Is this the right direction that we're taking? Or have we missed something? Or even if they have missed something, I'm supposed also to go to them that, no, this is not what it's supposed to be.
This is not how it was supposed to be.
Yeah, that's why the client is coming back because there's this thing that you missed. Yeah.
Okay. You are in the business of fixing problems, solving problems. When I asked that question earlier on, I was really trying to tap into like one particular, scenario, right? Because I'm sure you've solved many problems. What health? No? Agriculture? Right? Yeah. So is there like a particular, highlight on the kind of product that you've created in your experience so far? That was what I was trying to tap in. But I do like the intel that you've already given me. That's the only way you know you're moving forward. But like, is there like one particular incident? Because I really want to know, like, how is it like, in the office? How does it go? That's what I want to tap into also, No? Is there any?
Like, you want the name of the specific product?
Yeah, just not like a specific product, but like the kind of area that you worked in on that product. Because I don't want anybody, we don't want no NDA problems.
Yeah. I was also supposed to say that.
Yeah.
All right. So I've worked on multiple projects so far. I've worked on agricultural products, fintech. We do so much in the financial industry, the healthy sector as well, and the insurance. So the one that is most intense for us is so far that again really highlight that yes, we did that. It's I like the finance sector, so maybe I can be biased.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I can say that the finance sector is the one that was actually interesting as well as challenging at the same time because when we're working with the finance people, they know what they want most of the times. So they're we're trying to save people here. These are the processes that we've been using for years. So how can we really move from this process that people are used to go to this digital, to this digital thing? So that's where it gets intense to get to that point where you actually get to the point of convincing that person that, no,
the buyer of
the
product.
Yes.
Okay.
That no, of course you're buying, but then for us to give you the best experience, this is what you're supposed to go.
Interesting.
This is the route that you're supposed to use according to the digital age and what. Yeah.
So I guess your people skills should be like 100% because you cannot convince me otherwise. Especially if I feel like, because like the thing about it is you are used to a certain lifestyle, or you're used to using certain things, right? And then for you to come and say, no, but you know what? We're moving in different directions. So can you please try and learn something else? It's going to be really hard.
Yeah.
So your people skills have to be like top. Is fintech something you're also very keen on? Or
Yes, I think I've got quite some experience there.
Okay.
So, I think for me, when you come in as a tester, right, and as much as you're testing if things are working, you also have to come in with the mindset of what would a customer do?
Okay.
Right? So it might be obvious to the developer who created it that I created this is the process that I'm taking. But if you think about yourself as a customer, it's like, okay, if I saw all these fancy buttons, what would I click first?
The red one.
Exactly.
Click on the red one.
Yes. So there's that coming in as a customer. And then there's also, as Angela said, when it comes to things that they know as the client, that, okay, this is how we've been doing things, right? And then, I mean, if it's general knowledge for you to do something, it's a bit difficult to explain that to someone who's coming in, right? Yeah. So if I came to you and said, like, can you tell me everything about podcasting? Yeah. And you'd probably tell me the important things because you're like, okay, this is what you need, right? But then there are always those little things that are not mentioned. And then it's like, okay, then we end up in a situation where the whole thing has been built. Yeah. And then someone says, oh, but you guys forgot the thing.
But you didn't mention this part.
Exactly.
Because you were so excited when you told me.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it.
So it's also a thing where you're like, okay, you have to be very open to feedback. Like, you can't be like, you know, this is
my idea and that's it.
Exactly. So you have to be very open to feedback. You're like, okay, I hear you. This is how I think we were taking it in the first place. Also explaining yourself, right? Because you don't want it to also be a situation where it's like, okay, this was completely wrong.
You don't want to be wrong.
Yeah.
Never.
Right? So sometimes it's like, okay, like, this is why these things were done.
And okay, it was just a glitch.
Exactly.
It was just a minor glitch.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think my next question was really just gonna, tap a lot into like customers and like, approaching people, how people approach you. Like, how does that process go? Do you normally go out and find problems, or do people come with their problems? Is that how it's always been, or is it like a 50-50 kind of thing?
All right. So I'll talk according to my personal experience, what I've worked on so far. So it's always people coming with problems.
Okay.
Yeah. So most of the times their contracts are supposed to be signed. And then after that, that's when we start the talking now.
Okay.
Yes, you have this, you have a podcast. But then what is that thing that you want for the podcast? For say that, okay, let's say we're trying to let people use their smartphones, or they want to listen to the podcast using, let's say, these feature phones. So when you say that it's a success, what is it that you're looking for? Okay. Is it just that people are able to listen, or they can also pause, or is they can fast forward it, or they can do it? So that's where we do a lot of talking to see that what exactly are you looking for?
Okay.
Of course, there's this problem that we're trying to solve, but then we try to break it down and also see if it's fitting with the digital age that we're in at the moment.
Okay.
So it's not just a matter of, yes, you want this, but how also can we come in and help you?
Okay.
Yeah. So most of the times, of course, we've been able to meet these people in person, but most of the interactions are online.
Okay.
So we do a lot of virtual meetings. So there are a lot of meetings at the start of the project because you need to make sure that I need to make sure that I've captured everything. Maybe we can put it at 80 because we cannot capture everything, as she was already explained, that people get excited and then they forget that they were supposed to mention something.
Okay.
So there's that thing where we have to talk a lot, and also documentation.
Okay.
Because we cannot just work with word of mouth. You can say something today and then forget tomorrow that you mentioned it. So it's that thing that you document and also sign off at the end of the day that, yes, this is really what I want.
Interesting.
Yeah. So when you're coming to the end of the project, when someone says that, oh, Angela, there was this, we say that, but you signed and you didn't mention this.
So you're telling me I can't just walk in there and just be like, hi, guys, this is my problem. No, Mbumba, you have to sign a few contracts. I just had a question. I would be so weird. Like,
So
This girl.
Yeah, for
but
the
proceed.
signing is not just as a project as a whole, but as per feature that you've mentioned.
Okay.
So you give the steps on how you want this feature to be, and then you sign
Mm-hmm.
according to that feature. That yes, I agree that this is how the podcast on feature phones is supposed to work.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks
if
for giving
it's-
us an idea. But okay.
Yes. So if it's just pausing, yes, this is the process of pausing that. If
Okay.
it's fast forward, this is the process of fast forwarding that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I guess that there's like a lot of digging that you need to do also.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. There's a lot of research as well to see, because we also need to see what other industries are doing at the same time, or people in the same industry, what are they doing?
Okay.
And also what users are accustomed to on the market.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you avoid stalking people because you don't want to go there. Hi, we noticed that you have a problem and we want to give you a solution. But thank you so much for elaborating. I think you have literally, opened up, a much deeper appreciation of your job. Because now it's like, oh, okay, we get you, we understand. So Agatha, can you just highlight for me a little bit, the process of experimentation, prototypes? I'm sure there's that, right?
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken. Prototypes is an actual thing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, so like just highlight for us like the process is, how that goes. Do you indulge in collaborative efforts? Do you have a team that you work with, or do you just do everything by yourself? How does that process go like?
Yes. So in terms of quality assurance, yes, there is a team. So there is a quality assurance team, and we work on projects together, or we also delegate tasks among ourselves.
Okay.
And then we work with that. For quality assurance, right? As I've mentioned already, we do collaborate a lot with the BAs.
Okay.
Also because there's that question of what is quality, right? People ask that question a lot. What is quality? Mm-hmm. But quality is quite subjective to the people, to the projects. So whatever might be good quality in one project might not be the same in another one.
That's true.
Right? So there's also that aspect of finding out, okay, what is going to be the best thing for them, right? Based off of what they've said. So like I said, there is a team. So starts with the BAs. After the BAs, it goes to the designers. From the designers, it goes to the dev. From the dev, it comes to the testers, right? And then after that, it goes to the support team, and they deploy everything. But so for us, we already work as a team, right? So there's that whole thing where it's like, okay, sometimes, as a tester, you're like, okay, I'm bringing in chaos.
How so?
Because, like I said, you have to test everything. You have to do things that are out of the box.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're going to try and do stuff sometimes.
Like, what if I put sugar? What's it going to do?
Exactly. Like, if I had tea and I put salt, what is that going to do? You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So there are all these things that you do where it's also like you have to do it when the developer's not there. Because, imagine as someone who's built the thing and they're watching you do the wrong thing.
They're like,
Oh,
look
no.
at what this person
Exactly. You're like, I'm just pretending to be the customer.
You've said that, and I just envision you in a lab.
Yeah.
And I'm watching you from the screen.
Yeah.
As the buyer, and I'm there like, are you sure? this is what we're doing.
Yeah. Because I think also a thing I've learned a lot about quality is that it also goes a lot with user experience.
Okay.
Right? So you can measure quality a lot based off of that. So yes, are things working, but how easy would it be for someone to use this? Okay. Right? Because there can't just be a system with all these, like I said, buttons and you don't know what they do. So you have to make sure that, yes, we are moving at the digital age, but we also have to remember that you don't just wake up and know how to use things.
Yeah.
Right? Like, for example, when someone is so used to using an Android and then they move on to an iPhone, there's always that, I don't know what to do at first, right? And it can be a bit intimidating. Of course, and that's because everything is different. And it's kind of like that with everything. So when you're transforming digitally, there's always that, oh, I'm not used to this, right?
It's new to you. So.
Exactly. So you also have to make sure as a QA that, okay, we're doing this. This is what the client wanted.
Yeah.
How do we make sure, like, how do we come in and say, okay, yes, this has worked. I've tried to break it and it didn't work. So kudos to you, dev team. But we also need to know, like, okay, what else can we do? What else can we make better? So they also, like, in as much as we report defects, we also report enhancements. Like, okay, how can we make this better? Of course, that now has to go through the whole pipeline again, right?
Okay.
So I'll have to tell Angela, like, oh, Angela, this is what I've seen. And I think that this can be maybe enhanced in this way.
Okay.
And then Angela is like, okay, let me talk to the design team. And the design team talks to the development team. And then it's a cycle. It's a cycle before anything gets released. You'd be surprised how many times we go back.
Could be like 6 months. Throwing it back to one another. Okay, your turn now.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because also at the same time, I mentioned the testing sessions, right? So we also have testing sessions with the client. So now the client might come back and say, okay, great work, but we also wanted this thing, right?
Okay.
And then it's like, okay, take that down, give it to the BA, and then the whole thing has
start
to
throwing it back around.
Exactly, right?
Okay. So as a company, as individuals, of course you're all growing. I think every day we're learning something new, and we're trying to, I think you said that it's a learning process, right? Would you say Angle Dimensions has been impacted, especially with digital transformation? Has there been like a change in the company? Do you think you're advancing, or are you still in the same place? What would you say? Don't worry about them. Don't worry about it. Would you say you're advancing, or would you say that there's still a lot more learning to do as a company? Are you transforming? Are you putting the advancement in your work altogether? What would you say? How do you look at it?
Can I take that?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Okay. For me, it's not like I feel. All right. I believe we are doing it.
Okay.
Yeah. Because first of all, we have really embraced technology, because our office is paperless. So you can't find any papers where someone is writing.
You are lying.
No.
You are You guys, you want to take the paper business out of business. But anyway, proceed.
Yeah, we're doing it. There's that paperless thing, and also we are able to do most of these meetings online, which is, of course, the culture is going there in other companies. I will not mention things. But yes, it's not like, because we cannot travel to that place, that means the thing is stopping at the moment. No, it has to go on, regardless of whether Agatha is in Blantyre and I'm in Longwe, or Agatha is in SA and I'm here, or the client is in SA and I'm here. We're supposed to do it. So for me, that is really, we are on top of the game, I can say.
She came here to market. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Anything else you might want to add on that, Agatha?
I think she's made a really good point. Yeah. I mean, there's always room for learning, right? Like we were talking about digital transformation. There hasn't been a point yet as well for people to say, okay, we've reached the end.
We're good.
Yeah. So like, people are continuously growing. The same thing for the company. Continuously growing, continuously learning. Like, okay, how do we improve things? I think it's also big on improvement. So how do you get better? You can't just, like, you face something and you're like, I'm going to do that again. Especially if it didn't go the way that you wanted it to go. It's like, okay, what do I learn from this?
Yeah.
And I think also in my own personal life, it's very nice to be like, okay, yeah, great. this happened. What, like giving yourself like an audit
Yeah.
at the end of the day or at the end of a project and be like, okay, what did I do well? What would I not want to do again?
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a very good learning curve, I would say. But as much as she said, the areas that she spoke about, we're definitely on top of the game there. Yeah.
Okay. On top of the game. You've said something a lot about like personally auditing yourself. You know, I know this is all tech, but I also want us to like tap into like the personality. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know working in tech can be a lot. I've never worked in tech, but I just have a feeling it can be a lot.
Yeah.
Am I right?
It
It can be like a lot of work,
Yeah.
right? So as individuals, but also as women, how has that experience been for you? Or maybe before I go there, what is like the ratio in your office space? Would you say that there's a lot of women or there's like a lot of men? And because there's like many reasons surrounding that, right? You could say that maybe there's not a lot of women that are studying IT, right? Tech stuff, right? You would say that. That's another reason on its own. If there's not a lot of women, that is. But if there are, then that's great. What would you say has been a contributing factor to that as well, right? Because I want to also be able to tap into that, like the personifying of, you know, the whole experience. You have already shared your experience, but as women, what has your experience been in that spectrum? Have you even thought about like that before? Because every time I walk into a room, I'm like, how many women are here? And how many men are here?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, is there something that, you know, you might throw in there?
All right. On the women part, so at least they found me because at first I was the only female in the room.
So you also you walked into the room like, shh. Okay.
Yeah, so I was the only female in the room when I was studying, at least for 6 months, if not 4? I was the only female in the room. Of course, we had another one who is working virtually, but then we were just 2. So the one on site, I was the only one, and her online.
Okay.
But then I cannot say that as women, I faced challenges. Yes, there were challenges, but then the team was really accommodative.
Okay.
Because it's not a matter of saying that because Angela is female, she cannot do this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So there was always that room where I was even feeling like a baby.
There were babies. No, kudos to your work colleagues because that was good.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so there's that protection as well as support from the whole team that we can let her feel. So there's that thing. So I feel like my team has really shaped me a lot because I just started off without experience in this field. So the team was there to support me in the best way possible so that I can be where I am today. Of course, I'm not there yet, but then I can see that
There's been a lot of change,
Yes,
which
yeah.
is good. All right.
Yeah.
What about Agatha?
For me, so by the time that I started working,
Okay.
well, when I was getting there, I didn't see the women, right? Which is another interesting thing. I was like, oh, wait, am I the only person here?
Where's the bathroom?
Exactly. But like she said, like Angela said, the team was very accommodating. So I remember when I got there, at first I was nervous. Like, okay, what am I?
Especially on the first day.
Yeah. What's going to happen today?
Yeah.
But I meshed so well with the team, in my own opinion, that I was like, oh, I feel like I've known these guys for a while. Like
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. So I think in terms of like, I know a lot of people think tech people are all just like hoodie, laptop,
And glasses.
Don't talk to me.
Don't
you
forget
know?
the glasses.
Yeah, and the glasses. But the environment is really not like that.
Okay.
Like everybody is very friendly. Like, you know, you have a conversation with someone. If you're lost on something, people are like, okay, let me try and walk you through this.
Yeah.
Right? And then they even like, you know, times when someone's like, I'm going to keep walking you through it until you get it. So I'm like, okay, that was very nice. Because like same thing as Angela, for me, I knew that software testing was a thing. I knew that developers test their own software. But I didn't know that it was its own role. Right? So I'm like, okay, this is
Interesting.
I don't know what's going to happen here.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, but it was very good. At the same time, I think another thing that I've noticed at our workplace, which I don't know if it was a strategic thing, but all of us women are in different departments. Right. So Angela,
cool.
so of course, Angela, there is another BA, a female BA. So she's the only one who's got another female on her team.
Okay.
But otherwise, in the QAs, there's me. And then in the UI UX, there's another lady. In development, there's another one. So it's also nice to see things from different perspectives.
Yeah.
So I think from there, I mean, it's nice to also, because we can all be on a team together, really. We can be on a team together and it's like, okay, this entire team is female, right? Which is really cool. But at the same time, I think having people in different departments, you're able to also speak to them and be like, okay, so how are things going on your side?
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah. I think it's very nice. I think it's a very nice thing because also in terms of expertise, if someone's having issues with something, you can go to the next person and be like, okay, what's going on?
Okay.
And then someone can be like, okay, let me like get you in on this. What's going on here?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's very interesting. But yeah, I mean, there are not that many women, but
yeah, because then I was going to say, okay, in every department there's clearly a different woman altogether.
Yeah.
But the issue that I'm running to is not the fact we're not trying to focus especially on gender.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to make sure that the ratios make sense.
Yeah.
Which is understandable because again in tech there's a lot of people that run away from that.
Yeah.
Get even men.
Yeah.
I'm talking about it, right?
Yeah.
So but you were saying that there's not a lot of women. So I was just pretty much trying to add on to what you were saying, but you will proceed.
Yeah, I think a lot of people when it comes to tech, they think of coding.
Yes.
It's the first thing that they think of,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of people are like, I don't want to do
Yeah,
that.
can't be that person.
Yeah. But like, for example, BA does not have to write code. I mean, it's not that she doesn't know how to code. But, but it's just not what she does, right? As a QA, so for QA, there are different types of testing, right? So there's manual testing and then there's automated testing. So if you're into automated testing, that's when you'd be coding.
Okay.
But otherwise, if you're mainly manual testing, then it's like, okay, you're doing everything by yourself. So there's also that option. You can go into either or. Of course, it would be nice to have both. But, yeah. So there are different things. At the same time, like I mentioned, there's also UI UX. UI UX doesn't code either.
Okay.
They're designers. Thank you. So here you go. So they're designers. And they deal with the look of how things are, how they also deal with the clients. Because, like, it's a different thing to say what you want, right? But when you see it, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is the thing now.
Okay.
And also, sometimes, not everybody is a lot of people are visual people, right? So it's like, okay, I can give you something in words, but once you show me what you've created out of that, then also people are like,
they can appreciate.
Yes, they can appreciate it, but they can also be like, okay, I see what you did there. And I think, can we like try and look at it from this direction and things like that? So there are a lot of roles that it's not just you're in tech, you're a developer. That's all you're gonna do.
I needed you to elaborate that. For anybody else that could be watching, they'd be like, that job can be very difficult.
Yeah.
But everybody has a role to play, and it just pretty much depends on what you're really good at.
Yes.
As long as you focus on it.
Yes.
Right. So I'm sure there's a lot of, you've already mentioned, there's been a lot of collaborative effort, throughout all the departments. Otherwise I'm a girl's girl. So I'm like, please, more girls. We need more girls.
Yeah.
But, I'm glad also, I think, to note that, your work environment has welcomed you. There's not been those challenges where you have to feel like, I'm working with a man. Because there's other departments, other companies that make it so hard, for somebody else, especially of a female, position to come in and be like, no. It's very difficult for them to work
Yes.
with other people. So kudos to Angle Dimension.
Yeah. I actually forgot to mention
Yes.
that our project manager is also a female.
You see, that's what we're here for. That's what we're here for.
Yes. Project management is also
Bridget, why didn't you put a pure? Thank you. That's a whole project manager right there.
So project manager is also a lady, and also not a coding job.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but it's very like hands-on. You're seeing everything from like an aerial view, which is very interesting because you know everything essentially that's going on.
Okay.
So yeah, that's just an addition to my last statement.
So
Just on the same, I feel like what she mentioned, there hasn't been like a lot of advocating for non-tech roles, especially here in Malawi. Because whenever people say tech or when they hear tech, it's always about coding and networking.
And
So
computers.
It's once I say computers, say, hey, no. I don't want to get dirty, please. I want to be a girl.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
I want to be a girl. Some even say, hey, I'm too cute to code. So no.
Have you seen the women that are hello? Have you seen the women on this podcast? Okay.
So I feel like we can do better on advocacy on that. So to tell people that it's not always about writing code or climbing the towers that you're going to be on the wires and what,
you.
But there's a lot that you can do without coding or being on those towers.
Yeah.
But then you can be in that space contributing to that tech space as well without writing code.
Yeah, but I think it can also be one of those things where you would feel accomplished. Imagine solving a problem.
Yeah.
That's a really cool situation.
It is.
Not causing problems all the time. But anyway, so speaking of which, do you see yourselves going the next level? Do you see that there's more opportunities for you working there? Do you see yourselves growing in your profession? How do you look at the future right now? Do you feel like you're still in learning mode, or you feel like I'm ready for the next big thing? You know what I'm saying? Like, has there been that time where you have to like, you know, pretty much reflect on your own and just be like, you know what, I love working here and I can see myself growing here. You know, has there been that kind of realization for the both of you?
For me, yes. Because as I already mentioned that I started with no experience in this field, and I've managed to work on several projects with that experience that I did not have. But then now, with that experience and also the learning process that I went through.
Okay.
So the learning process is not about just reading books or the theory part of it. I believe that you can also learn a lot when you're doing something. So that practical experience really helped me to grow. And also recently there was something at the hospital at work where my boss wasn't there, and then they trusted me with the project manager position. So it's like looking back from where I'm coming from, say like, Angela, you have grown.
Yeah. Like, wow.
Yeah, if you are able to trust you with that position, it's not something simple. That means they see something in you that, yes, this girl can be able to contribute to this thing.
Yeah.
So I really see myself as growing and also able to take on the next big thing.
That's cool.
Because in tech, you cannot say that, I've arrived. There are a lot of things that, So I cannot say that I've learned enough for this, no, but I'm still learning as well as able to take on challenges as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. For me, I also see myself growing in this space. As Angela mentioned, I think something that they do really well at Angle Dimension is that they trust you and they also challenge you at the same time, right?
Good.
So they're not just throwing you in the deep end, but they encourage you to do things.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, take on the next thing. Yeah, you've been trying to get into the role, so you've been a bit on the support side because you've been learning, you've been onboarding, but now it's time for you to
grow,
to get going. Yeah, to grow. So in that case, I think that has also helped me a lot. In terms of what you mentioned, in terms of, do you think that you're ready? I don't think that you can ever think you're ready. Honestly, there just has to be that thing where you're like, okay, well, it's time now. Yeah. And of course, initially you're a bit skeptical, like, I don't know, maybe. Like, especially if it's the first time that you're doing that, you're like, I don't know if I can actually do this. But once you do take it, of course there will be challenges. There's always going to be challenges, right? So even when you were coming into the role, there was challenges.
Yes.
So from there, when you take on a challenge not as a burden but as an opportunity for growth, I think you start to see things differently.
Yeah.
Because of course it can be like, guys, this is serious stuff. Yeah, right? This is serious stuff.
Yeah.
Like even talking in meetings, because I mean, I think another thing that I've noticed is that for us, when we have our meetings, we're talking to different people, different experience on different levels. And same thing, that's how also they also feel about you, right? Like you're a different person. We don't know like what you're really like in person, right? So it can become a thing where it's like, oh, okay. Sometimes you don't even notice unless, I don't know, some information comes up and then you're like, oh, that's who I've been talking to all this time. Yeah.
I could be talking to Trump, right?
Exactly. So I think there's that thing of that initial shyness, especially if you come in with shyness, you're going into a new place. Of course, you'll be shy, right? But it eventually goes away because you're like, I'm just like, I'm talking to this person every day.
Yeah.
So whether or not I know that they're so and so, like I'm still going to have to talk to them at the end of the day. There's no running away from it. So yeah, I think in terms of growth, yeah, definitely. I'm excited to see what
the future brings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This chat is, I don't know, man. I have a deeper appreciation of the both of you now. It's like that's really cool. You girls are really cool. But okay, so back to the technicalities in the workspace and everything. So for example, right? I came to you with a problem. We went through all these processes. We had so many meetings and we did the thing. Product was approved and yes, we're using it.
Yeah.
How has been feedback? How do you go about feedback? Do you just, do they approach you or do you approach them? How do you know that the product that you gave out is actually working well for those that are actually using the product? Because I could have bought the product, but I'm not using it. I've just given it to somebody who needed it, right? How do we go about the feedback process?
All right. So whenever we deliver a product, it's like we give them room for support.
Okay.
So this process of supporting them, we can also be able to collect feedback in that process. Okay. So whenever there's that signing of contracts, there's also that thing where we say that I will be able to support you for this long.
Yeah.
So that time they're able to give you feedback. So when the feedback comes now, it's not just a matter of just getting that because this person said this. Okay. It's supposed to go through that process as well.
They're saying the truth.
Yes. And also, is this feedback really important when we add it? Will it really bring value to this product that we have offered? Okay. So it's also just a matter, that's where the analysis process also comes in, that yes, this feedback is valuable to the person, but then to the product and also to the group that is using the product. Is that really valuable? And so there's that way the analysis process comes in. People say that, yeah, we need this, but we don't need that. Okay. You can add that, but we don't need that. So that's where we reconvene again and then say that, okay, there's this feedback. How long can we take to deliver this?
Okay, that's cool. That's really cool. Yeah. Anything else you want to add on to that?
In terms of that, I think also it shows that it's not like a once-off process, right? Because there's always going to be something different, something new. There's always also there's that constant feedback that, okay, yeah, you gave us this. We kind of want to see this. So we're like, okay, so, on to version 2.
So it's like on and on and on.
Yeah, so it can be a continuous thing. Of course, it's not like immediately, usually. Like, it's not immediately we're done and they're like, okay, version 2.
We're good, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then, yeah, because even there's some things whereby, let's say there are changes that want to be made, right? So after the testing is done, people want to change things. Sometimes it's like, okay, these changes that you're asking for, it might be a bit too late to add that, right? So you can't just be like, no, we don't want that, or we're not going to put that.
Yeah.
You like, okay, let's think about that for the next version, right?
Okay.
If it's urgent, sure, we can go back, we can make a plan, but otherwise it's also a thing of like, okay, let's give it some time, let people use it, let them also find out what it is that's wrong, right? Because it could be that thing where today I might find something wrong with it as a user, right? And then if the client now is like, oh, let's take that one down and go straight to there.
Yeah.
Then I'll be like, okay, you really want us to start this whole thing for that?
Because of one thing.
Exactly. Exactly. Unless it's a critical issue, right?
Yeah.
Of course, if it's a critical issue, it's like, okay, we have to do something about it now. But then you also have to let it marinate.
Yeah, marinate. It
Yeah.
should mature.
Exactly. And then you're like, okay, let's look at the next thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's really cool. So, speaking of feedback, we should definitely also be,
Yeah.
going to the wraps of the conversation. Speaking of feedback, how do you see Malawi as a country receiving advancement in technology? How do you see that going? Are we developing? Are we growing in that sector? Because I know there are people who are still very timid when it comes to advancement of tech. How do you see that for the next 5-10 years per se, for example?
Yeah.
All right. So I've seen that there's a lot of improvements so far. I've managed to work on multiple projects that are to do with the general public, not like the private sector, but then the general public as a whole. So I've seen how we're moving from going to post office just to send money to your relatives.
Yeah.
Now we have mobile money, we have USSD, and also people are now embracing chatbots,
Yeah.
for example, and also mobile apps now for bank transactions. So I feel like there's still there's room for improvement, but then I've seen that people are really willing to embrace this digital thing, because now, and also the recent communication that Macra gave that we're no longer using scratch cards.
Okay.
That means they did a survey and then they see that people are really willing to do the digital thing. So even people in the typical villages, they're able to buy bundle, on the phone. So I feel like, yes, we still have a long way to go, but then we're getting there.
We're welcoming the idea.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think also another important thing that Angela has brought about is the mobile money, for example. The thing about mobile money technology is also that it's tailored to us, right? It's tailored to Africans. And I think that's also really important, because a lot of people tend to resist things that are like, now you want me to start doing all these things, like, now I must, but then depending on how you introduce it, if you're like, okay, this is the Malawian market, what is very common in Malawian markets, right? So for like mobile money, maybe it was like feature phones. A lot of people don't go to the bank, but they've got feature phones.
Yeah.
So they were like, oh, okay, that's some sort of niche that we found. And then they move on from there. Yeah. So I think, yes, Malawians are very open to new things. Change is a difficult thing, but there are a lot of people who are embracing that change, right? Of course, it's also a thing of like a hit or miss sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just have to let people grow into things.
it. Yeah.
You can't just be like, oh, okay, we're doing it now.
You better take it.
Yeah. So you're like, okay, let's gradually do it
Yeah.
sometimes. But I think also that's a good thing that I've noticed. As a whole, people are tailoring things to the people.
That's
and I think that's really, really important.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. African solutions for African problems.
Yes.
I gave you a tagline. But all right, so we should definitely be calling this a wrap. Is there anything you would like to just, that one thing that's at the top of your head, like, oh my God, I really needed to say this. I need to say this now. Is there something that you want to like just get off your chest before we wrap up today's conversation?
Okay, let me start.
Yeah.
For me, I would just like to say, if there's someone out there who is maybe looking into a new career, or they're trying to get into school, trying to figure out what they want to do, and they seem so intimidated by tech, I think that they should really give it a shot. Like, really try. Of course, sometimes it's like, hey, but now I'm giving it my all because I don't have another option, right? If I don't do well, there are different things that might happen. Yeah. But I think if someone is interested in doing technology, I think it's really worth it, because there's so many different things that you learn. Like we mentioned, you learn about the non-tech roles and things like that. So this applies to both the men and the women. Like, you know, we're not saying that BA is only female. No, that's not what we're saying. But yes, so if you feel the nudge and you're like, I really want to do it, but I just feel like maybe I can't. Try and do it. Like, it's going to be difficult. Yeah. Like, everything's difficult when you start. Yeah. But then you find yourself that you're like, oh, okay, maybe I started with like a broad perspective. Oh, sorry. I started with a broad perspective. And now I've managed to narrow down to something that I find very, very interesting. And once you find that, just keep going. Yeah. Like, you might not have the full path in front of you, but also be open to be like, okay, this is what I've done. I'm coming out of school, or maybe people do boot camps. I'm coming out of this. Let me try. Yeah. So yeah, really try, count on yourself, because you can do it, definitely. Yeah.
Anything else?
All right. So for me, I'll talk on the women's side. So I've observed that most of the times when women are in the room, or they're given a chance to talk about something, they're always focusing on the challenges that they're facing. Yes. So for me, I'll advocate for, let's look for opportunities in those challenges. We shouldn't just draw on the, oh no, we're at a disadvantage. Yeah. But then what can we do out of that? Yeah. What are we willing to do to get out of that disadvantaged place? So it's not about, and I've seen that there are a lot of opportunities now, or programs tailored to women, but then are we really able to go for them, for those opportunities? Yeah. Or we're just sitting there, hey, I'm at a disadvantage. Yeah.
I'm too pretty.
Yeah, I'm too pretty. Or I'm too pretty to do that. Yeah. But then are we willing to go for those things and also make a difference out of that? Yeah. Because it's not just a matter of sitting at home or being a wife. Yeah. Of course, we're trying to run away from that. But
the days have changed.
Yeah. So let's go for those opportunities. Opportunities are for there to embrace them, so that we can also make a difference individually, as also Malawi, the nation, as well as Africa.
I like that you've said that you know, like, we should always make sure that we find opportunities in challenges. It's not always about being in a disadvantaged place, but also being in a position for those of us that have the capacity or the capability of, you know, changing the narrative for both women and men. We should be able to also, I always run to this particular statement to say that it's all about the messaging. Yes. It's all about how we say things. Exactly. Because I can just say I'm starting a boot camp for women in tech. But what is tech?
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know? What is tech? Yeah. So when an average 13-year-old girl comes to me and be like, okay, I would like to, but I just don't know anything about tech.
Exactly.
You know, I should be willing to give them the message that they deserve so that they can understand. Yes. And then they could be willing. Yeah. Because it's just one thing to say, come and join us. Yeah. But what do they know?
Exactly.
Right? So it's always in the messaging. I loved today's conversation. I would have loved to continue talking.
Same. Especially when it comes to the opportunities and the good sides of women in tech and in STEM, right?
Yeah.
Because like Angela said, it's more so like, what are your challenges? We're tired of challenges.
What are your challenges?
Exactly. Let's ask ourselves, what do you enjoy? What are you enjoying in your space? So that also people can be more willing to want to come. Because imagine like someone is like, maybe like you said, a 13-year-old girl's watching this podcast right now, and it's like, these guys have just complained.
It's tough. It's tough.
Right? Then it's like, I actually don't think I can do that.
No, but just it's been very lightheaded, and it's so good to know that your experiences are far from the norm. Because literally everybody's gonna be like, yeah, maybe there's challenges there, which there are. We're not saying they're not.
Yeah.
But it's also good to highlight the goodness of it all.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, but hey, man, if you're just joining us, you're a little too late. You can just go back and start again. Anyway, we should definitely call it a wrap. We've been talking about tech. Tech is so cool. It's very interesting. If you haven't, tapped into that, try as much as possible to do so. Ask questions when you find somebody that, does, tech, or just Google. Sometimes just Google these things and you're definitely going to get all the information that you need. But otherwise, you should definitely catch the special tech edition next time. But for now, it's a bye-bye. Adios.